In Mithila, there reigned King Janaka, a ruler so just and wise that the whole world spoke his name with love. Dashratha of Ayodhya counted him a dear friend, and when he prepared his great sacrifice for sons, he did not send common heralds to Mithila, but his own trusted ministers, honoring Janaka with a gracious invitation. Janaka was no ordinary king, brave in battle. He was also so deeply versed in the Vedas and the sacred lore that sages themselves sought his counsel. He was the beloved pupil of the great Yajnavalkya. Such a soul, serene amid all his power, was fit to become the father of Sita. She, who would one day be the bride of Vishnu walking the earth. A time came when Janaka himself wished to perform a sacrifice. As the ancient custom demanded, the king took up the plough with his own royal hands to hallow the chosen ground. Bare-armed beneath the open sky, the mighty ruler of Mithila drove the furrows through the dark, waiting earth, humble as any farmer before the gods. As the ploughshare opened the soil, Janaka's eyes fell upon a wonder. There, cradled among the shrubs in a fresh furrow, lay an infant girl of unearthly beauty, glowing softly as though the earth had yielded up a living jewel. The childless king stood transfixed, and his heart told him at once that the goddess earth had given him this treasure. With the babe held close, Janaka hurried to his queen, Sunyana, his voice bright with joy. "See the treasure heaven has sent us," he said. "I found this child upon the sacrificial ground, and we shall raise her as our very own." The queen took the little one to her breast, and gladly, gratefully, she agreed. The full beauty of the goddess earth is more than mortal eyes can hold. We glimpse it only in fleeting things, in green and golden fields at harvest, in the grandeur of mountains, in the shining sweep of rivers and the sea. All that scattered loveliness was gathered whole into one single form, and that form was Sita. The poet Kamban sang that Sita's beauty outshone even Lakshmi, who had risen with the nectar when the gods churned the ocean of milk. Under the loving care of King Janaka and his devoted queen, this child of the gods grew day by day, filling the palace of Mithila with a grace and gladness the world had never known. When Sita blossomed into womanhood, a sweet sorrow touched Janaka, for he knew he must one day give her away. Kings and princes from many lands journeyed to Mithila, dazzled by tales of her beauty, each hoping to win her hand. Yet in the eyes of her doting father, not one of these suitors seemed worthy of his peerless daughter. Then the king remembered a marvel in his keeping. Long ago, pleased by one of Janaka's sacrifices, the water god Varuna had given him the very bow of Shiva, together with 2 inexhaustible quivers. It was a weapon of the gods, so vast and so heavy that no common man could so much as stir it where it lay. And so Janaka made his decree known through every land. His daughter Sita, he proclaimed, would wed the prince who could lift the bow of Shiva, bend it, and string it, and that man alone. Only a hero of more than mortal strength could hope to meet the challenge. And thus, the king resolved to find a husband truly worthy of the goddess born. One by one, the proud princess came to try their strength. They had heard of Sita's loveliness and burned to claim her. But the bow of Shiva mocked them all. Not one could raise it a hand's breadth from its rest, far less bend and string it. Humbled and heavy-hearted, the suitors departed Mithila as they had come, empty-handed. Far away, the sage Viswamitra now set out for Mithila, guiding the rishis of Siddhashrama with their laden bullock carts, and with young Rama and Lakshman walking at his side. So dearly was the sage loved that the very beasts and birds of the hermitage rose to trail after him, until moved by their devotion, he gently bade the sorrowing creatures stay behind. By evening, the travelers reached the banks of the river Sona and halted there to pass the night. As the campfires glowed, Rama and Lakshman settled close beside their teacher, and Viswamitra unfolded for them the ancient history of that sacred region, his deep voice weaving the vanished past into the hush of the darkening forest. When morning came, they broke camp and journeyed on, fording a shallow stream that barred their way. Onward, they walked through the ripening day until, at high noon, the shining breath of the holy Ganga opened before them. The rishis and the two princes gazed in reverence upon the river that the gods themselves adored. The pilgrims bathed in the sacred waters and offered libations to their forefathers, then raised a simple camp upon the bank, performed their worship, and shared a humble meal. When all were content, Rama and Lakshman gathered close and begged their master to tell them how the Ganga had first come to flow upon the earth. And so Viswamitra began. Hivan, the mighty king of mountains, and his queen Menka had two radiant daughters. The elder was Ganga, whom Hivan gave to the gods at their asking, so that she dwelt in the shining land of the Devas. The younger was Uma, who by her long devotion won the great god Shiva to be her lord. Long ago, Viswamitra went on. A king named Sagara ruled Ayodhya. Yet for many years, no child was born to him. With his two queens, Kesini and Sumati, he climbed the Himalaya and gave himself to fierce penance. The sage Bhrigu, moved by his devotion, appeared and blessed him. One queen would bear a single heir, the other 60,000 mighty sons. The two queens bowed low and asked the sage which of them would bear the single son, and which the vast host of 60,000. Bhrigu, gentle and wise, would not decide for them. Instead, he turned to each queen in turn and asked what her own heart most desired. Leaving the shape of their destinies in their own hands, Kesini answered that a single son would content her, one who would carry on the royal line. But Sumati, bolder of heart, chose the 60,000 instead. The sage inclined his head and granted to each queen exactly the boon she had chosen. And so their differing destinies were fixed forever by their own desires. Blessed and satisfied, the king and his queens returned to Ayodhya. In time, Kesini bore a son named Asamanjas, while Sumati brought forth a strange smooth god that split apart into 60,000 tiny infants. Careful nurses took the swarming little ones in hand, and the palace of Sagara soon rang with the cries of an army of children. The years passed, and the 60,000 grew into strong and handsome princes. But Asmanjas, the single heir, turned cruel and mad. For sport, he would seize little children and fling them screaming toward the river, laughing aloud at their terror and their struggling. Horror and grief followed wherever the wicked prince walked. At last, the people could bear him no longer, and Asmanjas was cast out of the kingdom to everyone's relief. Yet from that dark branch grew a bright fruit. For his son Ansuman was all that his father was not. Brave, gentle, and beloved. In the noble young prince, the grieving realm found new hope. In time, King Sagara resolved upon a great horse sacrifice, and young Ansuman was set to guard the sacred steed as it roamed. But Indra, king of the gods, jealous that a mortal should dare so holy a rite, took the shape of a fearsome Rakshasa. Slipping unseen past the guard, he seized the sacrificial horse and spirited it away. When Sagara learned that the horse was gone, dismay filled his heart, for its loss would ruin the sacrifice and stain them all with shame. he summoned his 60,000 sons and charged them to comb the whole wide earth. "Find the horse, wherever it lies hidden," he commanded, "and let no toil or distance turn you back." The 60,000 princes scoured every land, yet the horse was nowhere to be found. In their frenzy, they tore open the earth, like men digging for buried treasure, sparing neither sacred place nor holy person, until every creature came to loathe them. At last, they broke into Patala, and there they spied the horse grazing near the meditating sage, Kapila. Blind with rage, the princess took the holy sage for the thief and charged at him, shouting that a false yogi had stolen their horse. Disturbed from his deep meditation, Kapila lifted his eyelids, and from his wrathful glance, a searing fire leapt forth. In a single blazing instant, the 60,000 sons of Sagara were burned to a heap of ash, and the cruel trap Indra had laid was sprung at last.